Thank you, Mr. Harishankaran. That was very interesting, and I'm sure many of us felt everything kind of relatable in some ways, especially when you were talking about the college and how you said that you started a company and you learned the basics in the college itself. So I think that we can relate a lot of things over there because a lot of things happen during our college years. Anyway, sir, we have lots and lots of interesting questions. I must say that this is the first time that we are receiving lot many questions, and I think that makes you happy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to answer them.
So let's start with the Q&A session. So uh, let me go to the first question. Uh, no doubt, HackerRank is very popular with millions of users using it. What are the particular steps taken to make sure it is always reliable despite many concurrent users and huge spikes during events like placement test and all?
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of the interesting engineering problems. As a CS grad, I like to solve those problems. It's not like things don't fail. So I would put it this way: it's sort of like scaling is. I remember this quote. I think I'm paraphrasing this, but scaling is replacing the engine of a car or a plane from a slower engine to a powerful engine when you're actually driving the car or flying the plane. Like you got to change it while you're driving it. And that's what makes it, we can't take a 1 week break where we bring everything down and scale it up. Things have to be running along the way. One interesting way we have done it is we have sort of like we use a bunch of technical things like a microservices where we could scale things individually, where we can test things individually, and we have had our, the early days we have had our fair share of failure too, and that's what startup teaches you again, right? Like you learn from the failures, try to understand which component is slow, which component can be optimized. There are a lot of tools to analyze this. There is, Neuralink is one popular tool we use to ensure that what are the bottlenecks in the system. We use like your slow query from the MySQL logs, connection limits from multiple other services. So it's one of my favorite engineering problems to solve. So that's something I enjoy too. So that's how we started scaling things bit by bit. It is not done one day. You take my small baby steps, start looking at the biggest bottleneck, solve it, then you find the next biggest bottleneck, solve it, and so on. And it is still work in progress. Like it is always work in progress.
All right, thank you, sir. So can I move on to the next question?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So one of the attendees asked us, was there a time that you felt like you're done with this or you're done with the company and you have to stop this? How did you proceed from there?
Uh, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't lie saying, okay, I was always optimistic. There was always downs, and this is probably why having a co-founder helps. Like, thankfully, there was never a time where both of us were down. So whenever I'm down, the other co-founder will help me and make sure that we get the energy back. And whenever he is down, I'll make sure I go and encourage him and make sure we are back on track. But we did have some delay. Like, of course, starting a startup in especially 10 years back, it's not just you and your co-founder, right? I had to convince my parents too. And especially one of the interesting threats my parent had at that time is that if you keep doing this, nobody will marry you. Like, that's a very odd threat. It's like, who will give a girl to you if you are not making any money and so on. So certainly, what when we quit our jobs, what we told our parents is that we'll do this for a year. Like, let us do this experiment for a year, and then at the end of the year, we should do something. And after a year, certainly things didn't go well, and we extended by another like half a year, like end of the year till December. And by December, we have figured out that the current assessments works well. There is a market to it, and we had a sort of a reasonable business with customers paying us. So that was one time where I don't know, maybe I'd have extended that by another 6 months if things didn't go well. There was that ticking time, but there was not a time where we always felt there's something we are doing wrong, especially we were just out of college. We always thought we were super naive. We are not understanding the business. So there's something for us to learn. And we felt like we are just one fix away from reaching that end goal. So that's what kept us motivated till the end. And it was not like where we felt I'm done and I'm getting away with it. But sure, the timer or the promise we gave to the parents was one of the things which was playing in our mind.
Yeah, definitely. Teamwork and your friends and everyone always have an impact on what we are doing exactly. All right, thank you, sir. And the next question, there in a video, it was asked by an attendee, all right? So in a video, he saw that you quoted something like, "Our mission is to make the world flat." Could you please share what did you mean by this specific quote to the audience? Because it is something he was taught by himself, and he found it very interesting. So he wanted everyone to everyone to understand what you meant by this.
Yeah. So what I've always seen is that many a times students and from different colleges don't get the right opportunities because from the background they are from. Like, the city they are from, the college they have studied, even the course they are studied, all sort of brings in this bias. And we wanted not to have any of those and just pure skills to be used for hiring. Like your pedigree on which college or which department you are from should not be the reason why you are getting a job. It should be purely based on skills, which means whether it's a computer science grad or like mechanical or chemical or any other department, if a person from a chemical engineering can code better than a computer science grad, then they should be given the right opportunities irrespective of which course they are from. Same way, you have this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 colleges there. So we wanted to say that we wanted to make this developer world flat, where you are measured only by your skills and not by the pedigree. And that's what we meant by making the world flat. Of course, that confused the people a bit, and that's why we right now say different version of things. But that's a core of HackerRank, and that's the things on top of which we build things.
Thank you, sir. So in the next question, it is a little personal question, but one of the attendees is asking, how was the life at NIT-Trichy, and what is the backstory between you and Vivek Ravishankar, sir? How did you guys meet, and what is the actual backstory of it?
Life at NIT and actual backstory. I think life at NIT was fun. Like certainly, life in college is always fun. You learn a lot. There's a bunch of things you learn from your friends and roommates and so on, which certainly helps you become a better person over time. One thing which probably the backstory with Vivek is that you like how you have this group, or I think the ISTE and multiple other technical groups here. We were part of this common group called GLUCT. This is GNU Linux User Group NIT-Trichy. And we were into this mission of like, okay, we should make all the juniors learn Linux. They should be installing Linux. This time it was Ubuntu and Fedora and so on, in their laptops and so on. So that's how we got to know each other well. Like that's why I really enjoy these clubs and different technical clubs and different other clubs where you do get a chance to showcase your extra skills. And so certainly that's how we met. And then we started actually teaching our juniors on how to do, get better at Linux as an operating system. Started doing a bunch of other projects in college. I never thought I'd start a company with him. But it would always felt like doing projects with your friends. Like that always keeps us motivated. And that's what was the backstory I could remember now.
All right. Thank you, sir. uh, see, as an entrepreneur, as an engineer, as a graduate of NIT-Trichy,
Mhm.
like what does a day in your life look like right now after going through all these phases? How
Mhm.
is your day created right now?
Okay, right now, I wish I know. I always started the company because I wanted to code more. Like I really enjoyed programming and building, applications for users. So till I think few years back, I used to code. Right now, the coding time has gotten down really low. It's probably only the weekends where there is peaceful time to really code something meaningful. I'm still trying to learn React. My JavaScript stopped with jQuery, and then little bit of backbone JS and so on, but still I'm not familiar with React. But in the backend, I could do understand some amount of Ruby on Rails and any backend tech stack and scaling things. So programming is one thing which I try to do, and whenever there is a big gap in my day, I try to fit that in. Majority of my time goes in hiring, like interviewing candidates for different roles, and trying to debrief them with the rest of the folks in the company, and some amount of time in again, other majority bulk is what are the new things we can build in HackerRank? Like, what are the new initiatives we can take? Like one of the initiatives we were just brainstorming few weeks back and working on is like how do we do code review as a question type? Like, can you ask like how developers review code in GitHub and they give in comments there? Can we have code review where you are given a piece of code and you're just going to comment on different errors in the code, different corner cases, and so on? And so we come up with these new initiatives and try to see how we can, like, for example, how do we have Kubernetes as a skill in hackathon? That's one of the things which everyone is trying to learn: data science and machine learning in HackerRank. So try to see what are the new skills we can bring in HackerRank, what would it take to build that, and try to get that to reality. That's again another major chunk of my time. So hiring new initiatives, that's majority. But what I love to do is the programming piece.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, that the next question. Um, Nowadays, there are a lot of languages that coders can learn. It has come
Mhm.
to a point where the problem is not about studying a language, it's about which language to study.
Mhm.
So, apart from the current market demand, would you give us some inside knowledge of what the best ones are there to learn?
I mean, there's no inside knowledge. If there is a language which you need, so or rather, I would put it this way: there are different groups of languages, right? There is languages like C or C++, Java, C Sharp, and so on. And there is a good set of functional programming languages too. So I would recommend learning one of these. And also, so if you're going to build something, say on say using machine learning, uh, probably you'll have to use Python or Java because there's a lot of machine learning libraries for those. But if I have to recommend one language, and this is what I've been learning in the last months as well, is Golang. It's supposed to be, certainly really fast like your C, but not as bad to write like a C programming language. And some of the interesting programming constructs, like, you can't even define a variable if you can't use it. And some of those are very interesting for someone who has, we are used to just declare variables and not even use it and so on. So if I have to recommend one, like learning Golang certainly that's one of the fastest growing programming languages too. But at core is learn one programming language so that you understand the object-oriented programming, one programming language so that you understand what a functional programming language looks like. And it shouldn't be hard to pick up one if you know really other one. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to the next question. Uh, okay, looking back on over 10 years of HackerRank, is there anything you wished you had done differently?
Anything I wish I had done differently? I don't know. I don't think. I mean, even the hardships and everything was fun looking back, and I don't think I would have said, okay, I would have avoided this mistake, because if I haven't made those mistakes, I wouldn't have learned from those. Probably one thing I would have thought of is maybe celebrated more of successes. We didn't enjoy or so when we got into Y Combinator, the next day we were building features. When we got our first round of funding, next day we were building features and so on. And now when and in fact there was a team of 4 members, and I remember there used to be an ice cream shop next by, and we just go buy ice cream, and then that's all we used to celebrate as. And this is like major company events, right? So probably celebrated a lot more those events, which would have helped us. But we were core focused on let's build, build, build. Maybe I would have changed that a little bit. But otherwise, I wouldn't have said avoided any mistake I did or avoided starting mock interviews. Like those are fun things which we learned a lot new things. Probably majority of the things would have stayed as it is.
All right, thank you, sir. The next question. I read somewhere that you were a biology student in 11th and 12th,
Yeah.
and then took ECE in college in the beginning, but then switched to CSE. So that's a surprising fact. So how do you conquer all of these events?
Oh, wow, I'm really surprised that people know this. Like, I mean, it's not real. It's certainly I like programming, but there's not a lot of well thought decisions. Like typical, why I took biology is not like okay, it's sort of like if you take, it's a very stupid reason now. If you take computer science in 12th and 12th, you don't have this, if else between your medical or engineering. But if you take biology there, you have a chance to come back to engineering and medical. But on the first week doing biology, I realized, okay, I'm not going to do medical. Like suddenly the books were super thick that there is no way I'm going to remember all the content in there. So that's something, a typical Indian student with the right parent advice. I took bio and did bio there and did all of it. But I was trying to learn program. Though the only programming I did at this time is this logo, where you have a turtle which can draw things and so on. That's pretty much what I knew. And then when I got into NIT-Trichy, I got into electrical. It's not easy, but it's electrical. And then there was again the first semester, first year, or after the first semester, they give you some way to fill up all those things, and there is some reshuffling which happened. So I was like the last but one student to take computer science stuff. But like I said, I don't think it's the course. Like for sure, if it was even electrical, probably I would have studied about all the motors and current and stuff. Still, the passion is to build something. So would have learned enough programming. I guess there is always some energy to learn that. So I probably folks are from non-computer science. It's not a hurdle now. Like there is no way if you really enjoy programming, if you want to take a software job, it's still easy to do. There's a lot of companies which look forward for outside the computer science stuff. So it's not a big challenge at this point, is what I want to believe.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question. I read this very interesting thought on your blog. It was about resumes and how resumes should contain a section on failures as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the view behind it. Would you let the audience in on it as well?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, right? There is, so as I tell the story and the first half an hour we went in, there is a lot of failures and a lot of learnings there. And people look forward just for the successes you have done. And the resume, so in fact, there's one more question that I'll probably answer both. One question which says about what do you look for when you hire from students, especially for internships in this times, it's easy where it's easy to switch jobs. So in HackerRank internship, I probably want to talk about the HackerRank internship. So every resume which comes in, I review it. Like I look at it first. And then what I look for is something extra or something new initiative done. Like, because when I have like some 20, 30 students apply from, say, NITC, then I can, in my mind, I have a default resume of any student in your college. Like I have this thing like, okay, if you're a if you're in a computer science course, you're going to have one project on operating system where probably you're creating a shell. You're going to have one project on networks where you're done this TCP connection, one project's on your other course where you're done. And if these are just the projects, and if all the resumes are the same, then there is nothing to stand out for. So what I look for is the open source contributions, any other extracurricular things you have done, anything which makes someone really stand out for. That's what we look for, and that's where I believe like even the failure certainly is like this is what I failed in, and this is what I learned should be it should be an integral part of the resume. And we're wondering like maybe next year for our internship, we will just have our own standard resume format, like saying, okay, talk about your failures. And for sure, like I students fill in their 10th and 12th college scores and where they studied and so on, which we almost like ignore. Like we don't want to know where you did your 10th and 12th. You're in college. So I'm looking for the successes of the last 4 years, things you have learned from there, things you have failed there to works. So probably I'm thinking like we'll build some resume maker which works for HackerRank internship, where you could showcase these true skills rather than the default ones.
Yeah, so hopefully that would happen very soon. Sir, it's almost 7, so do you mind if you go a little more than 7, around like 10 minutes, 15
Yeah,
minutes?
absolutely. Yeah.
Because lots of questions are coming in, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. The next question is, we have a question asking about a recent company that has
Mhm.
made its name big for teaching coding to kids.
Mhm.
And their ads are flooding on a lot of social media pages these days. So what's your view on this, especially for kids of classes 4th and 5th starting to learn coding and do various programs in coding?
Wow, this is a controversial. I don't know what to answer. But I think the funniest part is that these companies are from the probably the marketing. I really like the concept. Like there is certainly people should learn programming as a core skill and start to you know think about your for loops and if and so on. Like in real life you got to think like that. Like in HackerRank we even teach our sales team and our hiring team and so on to learn programming. Like they enjoy it so well, and they learn till writing loops and ifs and try to understand what we do and so on. But so for me it should be good that students learn. But on the other side, what I was surprised is that the marketing teams are promising like, okay, learn programming at fourth standard and you'll get a job in Google, or learn how to be a CEO and you will start your own company and so on. Those are not really those that's where they're crossing the line, and it certainly is not going to work out that way. So you know when you're like fourth standard, fifth standard, when you're that early is when you have a lot of absorbing power. You get to learn a lot, and learning skills at that age, like so like for example swimming, for example playing a game, programming should be one of those things you learn. Like music, things you learn at that time stays with you for a longer time. Learning a new language, the language you speak. So it's good to have programming there, but it's not like okay you go and learn how to play this music instrument and we promise you're going to be the next A.R. Rahman, or you go ahead and play cricket and you're the next Sachin Tendulkar. Like those are really the stupid ways of promoting things. So I'm all in for promoting programming language more, but not with the promises, only because the kids will enjoy it. And I believe like it's something they should learn along with every other skill out there.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question. How long should we spend on understanding our customers' market research before starting to build the product? Suppose if you're trying to build a company or something, how long should we spend on understanding the market? And also, along with it, how often do your assumptions fail and how do you course correct?
I think how long there's certainly there is no clear answer for this question, but you sort of constantly keep working with a customer. If in the early stage, if you have one customer to do a demo with, that's great. And this is where the demo can be a little bit broken. Probably there are some, in fact, some of the early pages of interview stage, we never even built it. We just put a screenshot there saying this is going to come later. So you could do some shortcuts so that you avoid building those features, so that if it doesn't work out, you haven't wasted a lot of time. And if it works out, you can always build it real quick, and your customers know that these could come in. So there's never a stopping stage where you're gonna, it's sort of in parallel. You build very few things, show that to your customers or potential customers, and come back and iterate on that, and so on. One, probably if people are starting, trying to read this, planning to start a company, probably one interesting book I've read is called The Mom's Test, or something along that. Like, how do you do customer validation? The book's thesis is this: like, if you go and ask your mom, saying, "Hey, mom, I'm planning to build a website for cooking recipes. Like, will you pay like 100 rupees per month and buy a subscription?" Mom would say, yes, absolutely. Mom loves you and she's never going to say a bad answer to you. And she would say, I would absolutely pay 500 rupees. Why just 100 to, take it from you if you ever build this? But if you ask her the other question saying, so when was the last time you paid any online site and bought a cooking recipe? She's like, never. I always get it from the auntie next door and she tells me what to do, right? So now you know there is no market. It's how do you, so the book talks about the right ways to ask your questions to your customers and get the good, how do you make your mom tell real answers without making you sad? So probably that's one good book I could recommend, which can make you get those true questions answered. But there is no it's more than a art rather than a science. Like you sort of, sometimes it doesn't work well for a while, you push and it works. So there's no one true answer for different domains and different ideas people have. You could follow whatever I did, especially in college. You have a lot more bandwidth. Stick it for 6 months or give it a year, like 1 year or 6 months. You're just gonna do this, and post that you'll rethink, evaluate the idea.
Thank you, sir. So moving on to the next question. Though there are many tech companies started by Indians, only very few are registered in India. Even HackerRank has its headquarters in the USA. So what do you think is a reason for this trend, despite the fact that the most programmers there are Indians themselves?
Yeah, though, I mean, so I wouldn't know if, so we have a company in US, we have a company in India, and we had to structure it in such a way because we were funded by folks from there. And when we, when we got Y Combinator, they wanted an entity there and they wanted an entity. We already had an entity here. So I would say that's the reason why we started. So for example, we have an office in London and we are registered in London too. Like, because to do business there, you need to have a legal entity. That's the one. But internally, I don't think there is, it's sort of like within HackerRank employees, we haven't used the term headquarters so much. It's certainly even the strength between the Bangalore office and the US office is exactly the same, like close to about 100 each. So there is, you could think of it as, okay, you started here and you need to set up the headquarter there. But how we internally operate is completely different from like the headquarter giving, I would say, orders and we just execute it here. Certainly, that's not the way how it operates. All three locations, we certainly have like 3 registered companies. We do have equal part in making sure we are successful.
All right, thank you, sir. I think we can go for one more question.
Okay.
I'll combine 2 questions together, and that makes the last question. All right.
Okay.
Okay. What is the best advice you wish you could give coders that you wished you knew already? And the next question is, are non-circuit branch students taken seriously when they're sitting for coding interviews for internships or jobs?
Yeah. First one, the advice part is easy, and this has been maintained. Keep learning, have fun. Right. These are my two things, and because without learning new stuff, things gets boring, and whatever you're doing is not fun. Then again, it's certainly not the best to do. Like you get bored out, and for us to keep doing the same things again and again, and when things are hard. These two are the two things which kept me motivated, saying I am still learning from this whole process and I am having fun trying to solve this problem. So whatever you do, make sure there is always that the keep learning part and having fun part is there. The second one, certainly, like we don't, I don't even know the branches of the student, um, where we are, where whenever we look, I look for hiring. For sure, it's only till the internship and maybe joining as a fresher where people even ask for the department or the course. Post that, it's about what work you did in the earlier organization. In fact, I look forward for working with people from other departments because there is also that extra effort they have put in to learn other concepts and so on. So I've had people who had done again physics, agriculture, mechanical, electrical, multiple departments, and I know for a fact that computer science is not the huge thing at all. But having said that, if not, it should have something interesting, like it should have some open source project you contributed to. It should have a good HackerRank profile where you can show about your competitive programming. You should have done something interesting which attracts the recruiters or the hiring managers interest. If that doesn't work, then whether it's computer science or whether it's any other branch, that then it's not going to work. Then there's no point in talking about this. But if you have that interesting profile, the branch doesn't matter at all.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Harishankaran, sir. It was really informative. I think all of us over here enjoyed this session pretty well because more than the normal talk or seminar by someone, it was more of Q&A session. So I think a lot of questions came up because of that, and it was really informative. And I can clearly say that we can end on the note that we have to work harder as long as we don't get bored, and always try to find entertainment in whatever we are learning or doing. And
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Thank
And
you
that
so
was
much for having me. I really enjoyed the questions. They were really fun, and I'm really amazed by the amount of research people have done. Kudos to that.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, obviously, a hacker rank is not a small thing, especially for us engineering students. It is always an option. It is always there in our mind that we have to apply in the hacker rank and we have to do it so and so. So as soon as we got an request from your side as well, it was a great deal. And thank you for everything. Thank you for your time. And let me conclude by saying that this is our Newton Speak number 2, and it was a pleasure to have you. And thank you all the attendees. We hope you enjoyed this session. Newton Speaks will be back next month with another engaging speaker. Until then, thank you for your time, and good night, sir, and good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.